So you've played Granblue Versus. Maybe you are excited about the new version featuring rollback coming out this year, Granblue Versus Rising. Or maybe you have seen the trailers for that one action RPG that has been in development for years now. What's up with that game? Why is Platinum's name removed from that? But all of this has its origin in a popular Japanese mobile game, Granblue Fantasy. But is it worth playing? Granblue Fantasy is a Japanese role-playing video game developed by Cygames for Android, iOS and web browsers, which first released in Japan in March 2014. So the game essentially functions as a browser game, which means that you can technically play it on any device with a browser, though only Google Chrome is officially supported. The game also started support for the English language in 2016. All of the game's content is playable in English day one, and global players can join crews with Japanese players. So nothing like some other games where you have to wait up to 3 years just to get the new content. But, you ask, what is all of this content that you can play? So the first thing you are probably going to be presented with in Granblue Fantasy is the main quest, a massive storyline spawning like 164 stages as of the writing of this video and constantly being updated as of this day. This is where you will name your avatar and meet the other main characters, Lyria, a girl with blue hair of mysterious origin who can talk with the primal beasts, and Vern, a tiny dragon who's been your friend since childhood. With them, you start forming a crew with other characters you meet and travel to the skies on an airship, jumping from floating island to floating island. All with the promise of eventually finding your father, who supposedly is waiting for you at the island of Estalucia. This certainly doesn't ring any bells for me, no sir. No sir, officer. The story is told to you through short visual novel-like segments, usually spliced with some combat sections, very straightforward, and not only introducing you to the world, but also giving you some of your initial units for free. Catalina, my beloved. Another big piece of story content are the events. These are relatively short stories that are available for a limited time, and usually focus on parts of the world that aren't very relevant to the main story, some of them being so serious that they will punch you right in the feels. Some of them even featuring known characters from other properties as part of collabs. Every event has its own unique boss fight, and you can grind them for unique weapons and summons related to that story, and also general purpose materials that are useful for the game in general. For that alone, they are worth doing for a fledgling player. Closely related to events are the side stories, which are basically passed out rotation events that are retooled into permanent content for any player to enjoy even if they missed the past runs. Some new events might reference events from these side stories, so it's recommended to check them out if you want to get the full experience. I personally recommend the epic Ranger Sign Bravo, the Robo-Me series, and the epic What Makes the Sky Brew trilogy. With all of this said, I think some of the strongest points about Granblue, which led even people outside of the core player base to check out games like Versus and Relink, are the really strong designs and music. The art in this game is beautiful, with so many cool and attractive characters and pieces. There is something in here for everyone for sure. And the music. For this, the music in this game, at the hands of Tsutomu Narita and Nobuo Uematsu, they really bring in the epic when they need to, elevating the boss battles into a whole new level, despite its supposed limitations as a mobile game. Now, I need to get a hot take out of the way. Granblue Fantasy isn't a gacha game, it is a grind game. Most of the best gear and units in the game, you don't get them in the gacha, you get them from the shop, which asks you for materials you need to farm for, sometimes for hours, days, weeks. Sometimes you realize you can only get some materials from raids you are not leveled up enough for, or can only do for 2 or 3 times a day, and might even need people to join in on co-op to actually get the drop efficiently. And all of this for just one weapon, when your grid is supposed to be filled with 9 weapons, plus your on-hand weapon, and all of this for just one element. There are 6 of them in the game, so just do the math of how many parties you might need to grind for in order to get them ready for the most hardcore and sweaty parts of the game. Though when it comes to the gacha, there is a PD system, and at the time this video comes out, the anniversary of the game is coming up, which by my experience will be basically fucking Christmas for all players. So if you are watching this video close to its release, it's a pretty good time to start getting your feet wet. Unite and Fight, also commonly known as Guild Wars, any match with the name of another popular online game is pure coincidence, is a competitive event. How does this work, you ask? by having the game rank your guilds, or crews, by which can beat the ever-loving shit out of a boss quicker and better. From what I can gather as someone who is too casual for this shit, people get really serious for the duration of this event, as not only you can get good items out of it, including the Revenant weapons which are important to obtain the Eternals characters, its competitive nature lends for people to finally get a place to show off their builds. There is probably much more that I haven't been able to cover in this video, like the Arcarum, the World Beyond mode, which I haven't had the time to explore much, but seems kinda cool, and has its own set of summons and characters to unlock, and the entire lore of the setting could probably fill out an entire channel. With all of this said, Granblue Fantasy is, in my opinion, indeed a special game in the gacha space, one that is even expanding beyond the bounds of mobile game circles. So if you liked this video, make sure to leave a like and a comment. I'm keeping a close eye on Granblue right now, as I'm following the hype train into the new version of the fighting game. And for more content, consider subscribing and looking at my other platforms in the description below. This has been Kubo, and até amanhã.